Welcome to the warm-up presented by Ford. I'm Stephanie Reddy here tonight with NBA champion Steve Smith, in case you didn't recognize him with the glasses on, and number one pick MVP and WNBA champion, Candace Parker. Let's get to it.
Let's go.
We have so much in store for you guys this
I'm not
evening.
putting them yellow frames on my face.
These two.
1970s.
9 games in the NBA this evening. One right here on the NBA TV's airwaves. Starting off with this look, Paul George. Remember him? Well, he's been spectacular. First 2 games, he's averaging 35 points in only 22 minutes of play, shooting well over 50% from behind the arc. Speaking of shooting a lot, James Harden, the Beard, is going to lead his team to what they hope will be their 8th straight victory right here on NBA TV.
How many field goals he's shooting? All the shots.
All of them.
He should. Keep shooting, James. You're doing your thing.
All of them.
Well, here's a closer look. Last 7 games, they happen to all be victories for the Houston Rockets. Look what he's doing, you guys. These are not typos. 43 points, 45% from the field, 41% from behind the arc. And those last 3 numbers, nobody really looks at these when you talk about James Harden and his production, but 8 assists, 7 boards, over 2 steals. Impressions?
He's been remarkable. I mean, for me to see a player take on that much, the endurance he has to put in. I mean, he's shooting close to 26 shots, close to, I think, 15 free throws, and his three-point numbers are up. And he's basically taking on 1 on 5, and they're still winning. One thing is, if you shoot a lot and score a lot, people say a lot, but he's still winning, Candace. That's what I love about it.
And I will say, I love this for the regular season,
Yes.
Smitty.
Yes.
For the regular season, he is unstoppable. And last year, he was my pick for MVP, just in the sense of the fact that his team was 10th in the West last year, with everybody hurt. Eric Gordon was hurt, Chris Paul was hurt, Clint Capella was hurt, and James Harden stepped up.
Tony was hurt.
Yeah.
No, I'm just playing.
And everybody stepped up.
Yes.
Or he stepped up and made everybody around him better. And they won with him shooting this volume of shots. Those are volume of shots. Excuse me, I can't speak today, Smitty. But I will say his usage rate is high. And that's the thing that I worry about with regular season, yes, regular season MVP. But he wants to win a championship. And so, I think they're going to have to figure out a different way to do that because ISOs aren't as high in the playoffs.
So where does this rank for you all? I mean, it seems like every single NBA season we keep seeing a historic run, right? Westbrook with averaging a triple-double, Harden with his scoring prowess. Where does this rank with you guys? I know it's early in the season, but he's been pretty spectacular so far.
Well, to me, I think, sometimes you look at the assists, but it's when you get assists, and they have so much usage rate. I just think, for me, Candace, both those guys, I would love to even see James Harden playing more out of the post sometime, just because he can see double teams. And I love if they double James, which you probably will. Ball is swung to Russell Westbrook, then he's attacked. I would just love to see them in the playoffs, like Candace say, change up the style. And then also for me is everything should be defense. All their talk should be defense. One thing they've done in this 7-game win streak, they've holding opponents on 103 points. That's what I want to see. And they have the capability with these guys, with these athleticism, and should be high basketball IQ to defend.
Well, I agree with you because there's not many people that are going to stop them in transition. And so if you are able to get defensive stops, then they're going to score on the other end with the amount of shots they're getting up. But my thing is Russell Westbrook was injured last year, and he did not shoot the ball well. Yeah. I do believe that these numbers are more of a representation of who Russell Westbrook is. I mean, shooting 43% for him, I think it's great. But I also think D'Antoni is going to have to balance the amount of games that they play and the amount of minutes that they play together so they can get used to playing with each other in the playoffs.
So we showed Westbrook there. Everyone knows what he's capable of. We know that he plays with such fierce, almost recklessness, right? What can we expect from the two of them together? I mean, we all know defense is a necessity. With their athleticism, shouldn't they be a better defensive team?
They should. And I think that both those guys got to lead the pack. And then they have Clint Capella as a guy who can play pick and rolls. Candace, he can switch on pick and rolls. He can protect at the rim. So you have those 3 guys. Yeah. And then you throw in P.J. Tucker. They should, with those 4, have a pretty good defensive team, being able to playoffs, to be able to guard some of these top-notch teams, to be able to win. It all has to be defense for me. All has to be the way they play the game at the end of the game in the playoffs.
But what a luxury to have. To be able to sometimes, when your defense is not acting the way that it should, to be able to outscore teams. And I think as long as in the regular season, you're honing in on your defensive rotations and you're figuring it out. In the playoffs, if you can outscore people, I mean, we saw with Golden State last year, it's an advantage to have because this is a scoring league.
All right, so we have to mention this because we're talking about the Rockets and who they're playing. Let's talk a little bit about the Portland Trail Blazers and someone who may not be eligible to play tonight yet, but Carmelo Anthony will be joining the fray.
Finally.
Glad he's back.
Man.
We're all excited that he's back.
I'm excited.
So what is he going to bring to the table? I know it's hard to speculate because we have not seen him out on the court.
Candace, you know, everybody goes, you know, Carmelo's a ball stopper. Carmelo, isolation. Well, I'm watching pretty much every superstar is a ball stopper, isolation. I think for him I think actually CJ and Dame need somebody else to draw some double teams. I don't know if Carmelo can do it at the clip he did it 3 or 4 years ago, but I think at times he can get 13, 15, and in some nights 20 points. But just having him out there gives them another threat to keep the defense not loaded up on them.
Well, when the Houston Rockets were struggling last year, Carmelo had a stretch of games where he was scoring 20, where he was putting up numbers and actually shooting the ball at a pretty good rate. And my thing, Portland is struggling right now. They are not doing well. I think they're 11th in the West. They're on a 6-game road trip. They're going to be playing on the road, and they're struggling. And so I think it's a part now where they both need each other. I think this is going to be a win-win situation. Melo is going to be able to operate at the elbow. They are second in volume isolations, and so that's perfect for Melo. But they definitely are going to have to start creating for each other.
Yep.
And Dame has to draw and be able to dish to somebody with confidence that can knock down the shot.
That's a good point. Portland starting out 5-8, a little disappointing compared to where they ended the season last year. And you look at Dame and CJ together, we know that they are a high-scoring backcourt. I think you guys bring up a good point with Carmelo. Because we know what he can do, I feel like his pedigree allows him to be able to fit into whatever piece they need him to be. He is an all-star. He is an all-NBA caliber player when he was at his peak. Why wouldn't he be able to come in and just give them whatever that is? If it's off the elbow, if it's someone who can post up more, to bring some attention to the defense.
You know, I like him at the 4 a lot with this unit. You know, having him, Rodney Hood, and also Whiteside, that gives them some spacing. You know, both Hood and Carmelo can stand at the line, a high pick and roll with Whiteside. You got to collapse, and you give Rodney Hood and Carmelo some easy shots. And I think Carmelo's strong enough and big enough. The league is not where it used to be, Kansas. I don't think there's any dominant 4s that just can dominate Carmelo. So I'm going to love to see him at the 4 spot a lot with this group.
Yeah, and I think off the bench, I mean, you look at the pieces that the Blazers have lost just this season to injury and then also just in free agency. How many of their critical pieces have been lost? And a lot of them at that 4 position. And so I think Melo coming off the bench, you know, not starting games, but hopefully finishing a lot of games, will give them an extra score because, I mean, if you can put the ball in the basket, it doesn't matter what's happening on the other end. You can cover that up with team defense.
All right, well, speaking of Carmelo Anthony, he could be making his debut right here on NBA TV. You look ahead Tuesday night, that's tomorrow. Blazers, Pelicans, 8 p.m. Eastern, followed up by Thunder, Lakers at 10:30. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern with Game Time on NBA TV. And if by chance Melo does not make his debut then, I have it on good authority that he might make it on Thursday. So either way, you're covered with your Melo watch. Thursday on TNT, Trailblazers Bucks at 8 p.m. Eastern, Pelicans Suns 10:30 Eastern. Coverage starts with the warm-up at 6 p.m. right here on NBA TV. It's my favorite part of the show, guys. Ask the Analyst. It's coming up later in the show tonight. If you have questions, we have answers. Drop your questions for Steve Smith or Candace Parker, and they'll answer it right here on the warm-up on NBA TV.
Where are your glasses, Smitty?
Oh, they didn't want me to take them.
They didn't want you
I got them right here.
Okay.
He's got you covered with all sorts of glasses. Marc Gasol. Did we forget about him? How could you? Plays for the Toronto Raptors. We've got a live report from Toronto coming up on the other side of this break. The warm-up continues. Welcome back to the warm-up presented by Ford. Here's a live look inside Scotiabank Arena. Toronto Raptors hosting the Charlotte Hornets this evening. That's 7:30 p.m. Eastern on NBA League Pass. And we welcome you back inside the studio, and we're excited to welcome in an old friend of mine, Matt Devlin, who covers the Toronto Raptors. Welcome, Matt.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. Great to see you.
Hey, listen, before we get to the serious business, I have to ask, where is your ring? Are you wearing it? Can I see it, or is it hidden away?
It's right here. It's the wedding ring.
Ah, smart
right there.
man. See, that's what I'm talking about. Take notes at home for all you newlyweds. Very well
Exactly.
played, Matt Devlin. All right, let's get to the Toronto Raptors. Pascal Siakam. People are saying that he could possibly win Most Improved Player 2 years in a row. Tell us a little bit about his progress.
Well, he continues to get better, and I think to me the number one thing that stands out is he has a motor, and it's every single day he wants to get better. His game continues to evolve and improve. He handles the basketball even more now than he did a season ago. As we all know, his usage rate is up. He can attack, he can go to the rim. He has a mid-range game, and then also he can step out and shoot the three. Now, he has shot the ball really well in years past from the corners, and now that's going out around the entire arc. And he has that responsibility. And if you look at these last few games, he's been just exceptional, inclusive of tying his career high with 44 points and coming back with a 36-point effort. And I think this past Saturday against Dallas, it's the end of a long trip, 5 games, unfortunately missed some shots that he typically makes. But I'm a huge fan of Pascal, and I've jokingly said, but maybe it's just half jokingly, MIP to MVP instead of a multiple-time Most Improved Player of the Year. He's really putting together just an elite season.
Matt, Kyle Lowry's been out. Talk to me about Fred VanVleet, what he has done for the Toronto Raptors, and his maturation of each year just seems like he's getting better and better.
Well, he certainly is, and, he has a lot of the elements that Kyle Lowry has. He's a great floor leader. He's an extension of the coach, Nick Nurse, has great range. It's something that he worked at during the postseason where he's stepping out and taking deeper threes, and he's just a true leader on the floor, and he's also getting into the paint. And he has a never say die will. The other thing, even with Pascal, they guard, and Fred, like Kyle, can guard in the post, and he'll do everything he can to keep another team from scoring. And so it's a great element. It's why without the players that they've been without, Kyle Lowry, of course, and Patrick McCall and OG Anunoby missing a game, and then Serge Ibaka, this is a team that defends and they compete night in and night out.
I think last year, playing without Kawhi because of load management, a lot of people got to see the depth of, the Toronto Raptors. And this season, obviously on this road trip alone, losing, like you said, Kyle Lowry, Serge Ibaka, OG. Can you talk about the defense? Because I don't think people really realize how sound Toronto is defensively.
Well, they are, and it's a great point. Last season, they went 17-5, and I know that Nick Nurse is somebody that people talk extensively about on the offensive side of the ball, but he can coach both sides of the ball. And even last year, it was defense first, and the elements of that, as we saw throughout the course of the postseason, mixing and matching, bringing in the box and one, the triangle and two, that is something that has been talked about before. It's something that we saw within this past week, whether it be against Damian Lillard or whether it was against Kawhi Leonard or LeBron James, multiple defenders, the zone, switching back to man-to-man. And then also they're number one in the NBA in fast break points. And as we all know, where do you get those from? You get that from your D. And early on in the season, when asked about maybe some players getting into the rotation, what do they have to do? Nick Nurse said, know the defensive schemes and play defense. And so that's something that you can provide on a night-to-night basis. It's something that is happening. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson was great over the past week. And this is a team that's lost a lot of depth. Remember, Jakob Poeltl, who is a bench player, was in the Kawhi Leonard deal with DeMar. Then when you think about the Marc Gasol deal, Jonas Valanciunas was involved in that deal, along with C.J. Miles and DeLon Wright. And then you had the graduation of Pascal last season into the starting lineup. Fred VanVleet this season, along with OG Anunoby. And the scouts do an amazing job. They've brought in players like Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, Terrence Davis, Matt Thomas, who spent the last 3 years in Europe. And this is a team that has that next man up mentality, and it's carried through.
Well, it certainly is evident, Matt, when you list all of those people that have been in and out of the lineup, and especially when you consider top 5 defensive rating both last year and this year. It brings me to what Candace brought up with the injuries. Can you give us an update? Where do you all stand in terms of when the bodies are coming back?
Well, with respect to Kyle Lowry, originally 2 weeks and then reevaluated, so we're roughly about 5-6 days from that. Serge Ibaka, high ankle sprain. As you three know, as former players, that can linger. There has not been an update on that. You hope, obviously, to get him back sooner rather than later. And then there's no timeline on Patrick McCall, unfortunately.
Wow, that just makes it that much more impressive. Matt Devlin, we appreciate you joining us. You're always welcome here on the warm-up.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
All right, he laid it out. I mean, there's a lot of bodies in and out of the Toronto lineup, and they're still finding success. In fact, they're undefeated at home with a 4-0 record. What do you all attribute that to?
I think defense. I think championship, the way you go about approaching games. I think they learned that last year. Candace hit it best. During load management, they were basically guys had to step up into a different role. And now Pascal Siakam is taking on this role of a Kawhi Leonard. Not saying he's Kawhi, but I'm looking who's going to be the next Pascal Siakam, whether that's OG Anunoby or someone else. But I think this team right now, if you defend and also you shoot well from the three-point line, you'll have a chance. And if you just want to compete and play the right way, they've done a nice job.
Well, I think they're taking the recipe from the Spurs. The Spurs beat teams that they are supposed to beat. And the Toronto Raptors have not lost consecutive games all season. And so learning from your mistakes, I think shooting the leather off the ball has helped. They're shooting 40% from beyond the arc, 40% from the three-point line. And again, you talk about defense. What does that do? That gives you easy offense in the transition side of the game. And that's exactly what they did to the Lakers. They outscored them in transition. And, you know, when you have athletes like Van Fleet and you have athletes like Siakam coming at you and your defense is not set, it's going to be really tough to stop them one-on-one.
Well, we'll find out what happens. This is why we love this game every single night. You never know what you're going to get. The warm-up is going to take a quick break. We'll continue after these messages. Here's a look at Miles Turner of the Indiana Pacers. Remember, he missed 8 games? Well, he's back. Welcome back to the warm-up presented by Ford. Damian Lillard, he's averaging just under 30 points per game, 7 assists, 5 rebounds. He's the 5th leading scorer in the NBA. He and C.J. McCollum trying to get on the right side of things. 1 win so far in a row, trying to make it 2 against the Houston Rockets tonight.
Hoodie Dame.
That's
going to be
It could be something, right?
Melo's bringing the hood to
Sleeveless
Portland.
hoodie.
Yeah.
I see what you did
Yeah,
there.
Melo's going to show him how to wear the hood.
Perfect. She's Candace Parker. He's Steve Smith. I'm Stephanie Reddy. We're glad you guys are here with us. It's our favorite part of the evening when we have these two on board. It's Ask the Analysts. That means you all at home get to tweet us in some questions and they get to answer it. Here's one from Cole. How long do you guys think the Lakers can hold on to that top spot, and who is the team to beat in the East?
No, I think the Lakers can hold on to it. I don't think the Clippers, because of the rest with a lot of those players, that they will have the top spot. I didn't pick them because of that, and I think it'll take time to gel, but I think the Lakers can hold on to that top spot in the West. And who's coming out of the East? Before the season, I picked the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't know if they have the best record, but I'm still hoping that my predictions come true. But I'm getting a little lukewarm on the Sixers, Candace.
Well, for me, I think the Lakers definitely are going to hold on to that top spot. It seems like LeBron is not under the load management protocol that the rest of the NBA stars are under. And really, home court advantage really doesn't mean that much. If you're the Clippers or Lakers,
Right.
you're playing at home anyway. And then secondly, I mean, I've been surprised by the Boston Celtics, and they reached, the conference final the year prior to this. So I think Boston right now is the team to beat.
Ooh, I like both of those picks. I
No
can't wait.
Milwaukee? Nobody has Milwaukee?
I think they're under the radar. They were under the radar last year. Do you have Milwaukee?
No, I picked Philly. I'm going to go with what I picked earlier, unless something changed, and then I'm going to start saying.
I think they lost a lot with Malcolm Brogdon. I think people underestimated his value. Little blonde.
90, 50, 40.
Right, exactly. All right, here's a question from Julian. What will Boston miss the most with Gordon Hayward being out for an extended period? He was balling.
I believe that sometimes it's best during the season for some guys to have to step up. And you earn those minutes in the playoffs if somebody gets in foul trouble or, they have to sit out a game in the playoffs. So I think this time will give Jason Tatum and, the rest of, because they were log jammed at that 2-3 position. So Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, they have to step up, and I think they're going to be needed to play big minutes in the playoffs.
Totally, Candace, that's the positive. The negative is, it shortens your bench, and I think those will have to play longer minutes, more minutes. The rotation won't be the same without a Gordon Hayward, but other than that, it puts other guys at the step up, but I think their bench numbers will go down.
And I feel bad for Gordon, because he really was balling.
Horrible.
You missed, you have an injury like that, you come back, it takes a year, now you're out. But the good thing is, it's not a lower extremity, it's upper extremity, so you can still stay in shape.
That's still rough. We're all pulling for you. All right, next question. This is from Philly Kid 215, as in the area code. Does Ben Simmons' inability to stretch the floor and hit jumpers hurt the 76ers offense?
Well, and I'm going to say no. The reason why is because I'm not looking at Ben Simmons to be able to shoot threes yet, Candace. The one thing I think is hurting the Philadelphia 76ers at the end of the games, he's being guarded by smaller, when I mean smaller defenders, 6'3", 6'4", 6'2", 6'5". He's 6'10". I want to see him down on the block. I think his inability to want to get to the free throw line in crunch is going to hurt the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm not looking at him as a three-point shooter yet. If he can get on the block, get fouled, and get to the free throw line and make 70 to 75%, that's what's going to help the Philadelphia 76ers.
I just struggle because we've gone back to this. It seems like 4 of their starting 5 love the same spot. And so when you have Joel Embiid on that favorite spot, which seems to be that left block, where is Ben Simmons? And in the playoffs, you're going to scout, and they're not going to get those high lows because they're going to come over, the defense is going to rotate. They're not going to be able to hit Joel in his spot. And so I think it does hurt because the floor is shrinked, and you play more in the half court in the playoffs, which is, the game is a lot slower. So I do still believe that Ben Simmons eventually is going to have to hit an outside jump shot or be a threat.
All right. I agree with both of you guys. It's not pertinent, but coming, right? All right, this is from Kayvon. If I pronounced that correctly or incorrectly, sorry to your parents. Is Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham a soon-to-be threat? Also, are the Charlotte Hornets going down the right path this year?
I've been pleasantly surprised by Devontae Graham. Coming off the bench, it just seems like, okay, he scored 35. Okay, the next game, he's not going to do that again. And he continues to do it. I love that backcourt. Terry, it's taken a little bit of time to get him going. But, if you're going to part ways with Kemba Walker, what a backcourt to bring in to build for the future. Do I think that they're a right-now contender? No. But they do have the pieces in the future. They added P.J. Washington. They do have the pieces in the future to be something great.
Candace, I just love their chemistry. You watch them all 8, 9, 10 guys get up when guys make plays. They play extremely hard. They remind me of the Brooklyn Nets when you had Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, and D'Angelo Russell. I look at them as next year they can add a piece or just continue to keep getting better. Then we start talking about the Charlotte fight for a playoff spot or even going a little bit higher. I like what they're doing. They remind me of the Nets about a year and a half ago.
I like that comparison because they came from out of nowhere, right? Just hard play, lots of enthusiasm for each other. Dwayne Bacon, of course, was the original starter. He missed the last 3 games, so Devontae Graham starting in his place, setting a career-high 9 made three-pointers on Saturday. So I'd say they're on their way.
They are. They're missing Nicholas Batum and I think Michael Kidd-Gilchrist with injury.
That's right, and Nick Batum just came back, so he'll continue to get his game right. All right, the warm-up will continue. Julius Randle warming up with the headset. New York Knicks hosting the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's 7 o'clock Eastern.
That's going to be a good one, Smitty.
Toronto Raptors hosting the Charlotte Hornets. 7:30 p.m. Eastern start time. Available on NBA League Pass. MIP, possibly again. MVP running, according to Matt Devlin. Who knows what the season will bring?
He's real good. That's what I can tell you. Here we go. Here we go. You ready?
It is time for Smitty's top 5 plays under the rim.
Let's go. Number 5.
I'm excited.
First of all, I'm going to teach Candace the Smitty if she ever comes to the gym with me.
Oh my gosh, if I ever come to the gym?
With
Seriously?
me. You go to the gym all the time. You just don't come with me.
Wow. I can't wait to
Watch.
I can't wait.
See that?
Oh.
It's too high.
The finger roll, though.
But watch.
Oh, I saw.
I got a little.
But that's not under the rim.
I would
It
think
is.
so, but yeah,
You
not
dunked
under
it.
the rim.
Here we go. Number
All right,
5.
here we go.
I like Alonzo Trier. I got to call young fella. He added a little bit to it. Okay, he gives him the Smitty.
Oh,
and it's what you
that
think,
was
Candace?
nice. I like that. It was a little Smitty, a little Rondo-esque.
I know. I got to get
a little bit. Okay.
Alonzo Trier, he got a lot of love.
With the step back.
hesitation. That's number 5. Number 4. I need a nickname, Steph.
Oh, my
and Candace for
goodness.
Ja.
This,
Ha ha. I'm gonna start calling him ha ha.
ha ha. I think we're going to continue to work on that nickname.
Yes.
But
Ja is a
Ja
kid so
rules.
smooth,
this kid is so smooth and fearless.
fearless.
I love this kid.
You love this, Steph and Candace. Game winner. He is going to the cup against bigs, against everybody.
But he just gets in the air and hangs. It seems like he hangs in the air, Smitty.
It is, and he's only like 170.
And he's going to his left hand.
But he's still just putting people in, and he's like, too small, too little. Okay.
And his pops was there too. That was
Pops
awesome.
having a good time. Look at the dog.
The dog.
See, that's what I need. We got him all tagged. This fits him. Candace, watch this. This kid got a great feel for the game. Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Luka.
This,
Got
He
him.
makes it look easy.
this right here, but he always is playing under control. Unbelievable.
Now, this one was pretty good. Ooh, one
back.
more time. Don't do him like that, Darius Garland. No nickname yet, but it's coming, young fella, because you gave him the
That's 2.
2 is it?
That's 2.
Stay down. Nice. Now this, now the number 1 play. Ice tray the game. Boy, Matt Gaines and Torrance did a good job with that one. Ice tray. I like my ice trays at home.
I promise you.
What you gonna do, Ken?
I
What you
promise
gonna do?
And then he stares down the bench, though. Like,
I like young fella. That's
like,
what I'm talking about.
he's staring down the bench.
Look,
What are you
ooh.
doing if somebody nutmegs you, Smitty?
One time I did Jamal Crawford, but I was so old I didn't know what happened. I just stood there. Trey. I didn't know which way to go. I got in my stance, but there's another one. He really got Rubio. Ooh, and then he go attack the bigs. He's not afraid at all. Trey is rolling.
It was an and one.
Did you expect this?
I didn't.
I knew he
I'll
was
be
gonna be
honest
good.
with you. I knew he was going to be really good, but the amount of confidence he's playing with, I mean, the kid is coming
Gotta
out and
teach
playing. Nah, you
Smitty.
got to. It's the shoulders, or
Yeah, so
got you.
is it the
let's
hezzy?
pay
What
up.
is it?
Let's see it. Pay up.
No, she got to. I'm a trainer. She got to start paying.
I don't know.
That's what I'm talking
This is
about.
pro bono.
This is
We're a team.
teammate.
Thank
We're
you.
a team right now. Smitty talking about.
Just a
Can we
quick
do
demo.
a quick little?
Okay, first,
Okay.
right here. The basket's where
Okay.
Stephanie is.
Okay.
Okay.
So you get your shoulder on your chin.
Okay.
And then just hop. And then when you land, you go.
Oh, so the shoulder. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, okay, there we go.
I'm gonna bring that out.
Gotta get the
Bring
alignment.
that
Can I
out.
get on the top 5 if I do it in a game?
All 5 would be
Number
yours.
1.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I'm coming
Cool.
to a game this year.
Okay, I can't
With
wait.
my signs.
Oh, please don't.
I'm
All
having
right,
your
thank
nickname
you,
too.
Smitty. We always
You know,
enjoy
your
this.
mom told me your
Appreciate it.
nickname.
Oh my
Keep that to yourself.
This is a
messed
good
up.
one.
Okay, good.
Messed up.
All right, for Smitty and
Stay in your
Candace,
lane,
we're going to
Steph.
send you to break a little bit. This is my lane, this whole thing. Brooklyn Nets hosting the Indiana Pacers, 7:30 Eastern. That's on NBA League Pass. Look it up.
Segment of the show, okay?
Wow, that's impressive. Shout out to your son, by the way, and I'm not sure if that works. It might. We'll get back to you on that, Tim. Let's get back to the fantasy forecast for you guys at home. Harden and Giannis, right? They're both big investments tonight. Who's the best investment?
Well, you talk about the 2 favorites right now to win the MVP, and both of them are delivering at that type of level. But if I had to choose between these 2, I'm sorry. I'm still going with James Harden. I mean, digest this. 2 years ago, he won the MVP, okay? He averaged 9 less points a game 2 years ago than he does now. And I know he's averaging 43 over his last 7 games. That's only like 3 points more than his total average on the year. And his usage is through the roof. So I love the fact that he's going to be on the floor. Last 4 games, 39, 40, 44, 38 minutes. Giannis, all his numbers are up. Plus, you get a steal and a half and a block and a half a game. My fear between the 2 of these is Giannis is in a blowout type of game, and maybe he sits a majority of the 4th. One thing about Harden, Stephanie, load management and James Harden, they do not go hand in hand. He loves being on the floor.
So that is a key piece of the puzzle, obviously, when you're talking about fantasy basketball. So very good point by you, Tim. All right, it's time to unveil it. It is time for Doyle's daily starting lineup.
Well, I'm really zeroing in on that Nets-Pacers game. Why? Because the Nets don't guard anybody. So I think there's value there with Joe Harris. Obviously, Dinwiddie's going to get a lot more touches with no Kyrie out there. I think Domantas Sabonis is just broken through, and fantasy-wise, good for 13, 14 rebounds a night. The Suns are catching the Celtics on a second half of a back-to-back. Feels like Celtics have been out west for a while, so I'm going to use a couple of Suns there with Sarge and Rubio. And Garland's an explosive rookie. He's got big-time game. And Wendell Carter just seems like he's always good for 12 points and 10 rebounds. He's going to be on the floor a bunch, but you got to spend a lot. But I think James Harden is worth every single penny.
All right, well, thank you, Tim. It's time now to lock in our weekly predictions. NBA Pick'em Weekly 6 is the free-to-play game that lets you predict the winner and margin of victory on weekly NBA games. Tim is going to lock in 3 of his own Weekly 6 predictions for the upcoming week. Let's get into it, Tim. Pick the winner and the margin of victory for Pistons at Bulls. That's Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern on NBA League Pass.
You know, last time these two teams faced off, the Bulls won by 6, but there was no Blake Griffin in that game. And Otto Porter went nuts. Now he's banged up for the Bulls, and Blake Griffin is playing. Andre Drummond had 25 points and 24 rebounds in that first matchup against the Bulls. I think the Bulls are struggling to find another offensive weapon besides Zach LaVine. So if Kobe White doesn't have a sensational game, then they really have to rely on a guy like LaVine. And with no Otto Porter out there, I say the Pistons go into Chicago, win this game by 6 points.
All right, I'm writing that down. All right. Portland at Milwaukee. That's Thursday, 8 p.m. on TNT. What you got?
Well, it's a national TV game. And by the way, who made the schedule for the Bucks? Because when these two teams match up, the Bucks had played 10 road games this year and only 4 home games. And that's going to be the difference for me. Hey, who's going to guard Giannis? That's a question every single game. Nobody can guard Giannis. But the Bucks have lost 1 game at home, and that was early on to Miami, so maybe they were sleeping in that game. But their other 3 opponents so far at home, the Cavs, they beat them by 17. The Raptors, they beat by 10. The Bulls, they beat by 10. So average margin of victory in their other home wins has been 12. I say the Bucks knock off the Blazers by 12.
All right, you got the Bucks in that one. How about this one? Suns at Nuggets. That's Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern on NBA League Pass.
You know, I think the Suns caught the Nuggets sleeping earlier in the year. That was a game that went to overtime, and it was ugly. I mean, really ugly. Both teams shot below 40% from the field. Both teams shot below 30% from 3. But it was a game that the Nuggets won 108-107 in overtime. Devin Booker struggled, and I think Devin Booker's going to struggle again. Why? Because the Nuggets have guys that can maybe stay in front of him, like a Jamal Murray, like a Gary Harris, like a Will Barton. They can just throw body after body. Craig off the bench as well, can kind of body up Booker. And I think Jokic is going to have his guys more motivated. No one's sleeping on the Suns anymore because they are for real. So might have snuck on some teams earlier in the year. I do think they're a playoff team, but I think Denver's going to be ready second time through. And who did the schedule for the Suns? It's the second time they go to Denver. They'll have revenge later in the year, but I think the Nuggets win this game by 10.
Thank you, Tim. I have it on good authority that it's the same person that did both of those teams' schedules. Appreciate you joining us, Tim. Always welcome here on the warm-up. We look forward to having you back again. And you all at home, make sure you lock in your own weekly predictions with NBA Pick'em Weekly 6, and you could win $1 million for your perfect picks. Head to nba.com/weekly6 to play free. The warm-up will continue after this break. Toronto Raptors led by Fred VanVleet, 7th leading assist getter in the NBA, averaging just over 7 assists per game. He's helping in the absence of Kyle Lowry.
15-point lead, but still, at least they were in the game. The crowd was into the game, and that goes a long way with this front office.
Stephen, I know the Knicks are 3-10, but from my standpoint, R.J. Barrett has been extremely solid as a rookie. You've seen him up close and pretty much every day. Can you just expand on how well he's played so far as a rookie?
Yeah, you know what? 2 things have been very impressive for me. One is his physicality. And when you get a 19-year-old kid, you don't expect that right away. A lot of these guys come into the league against grown men and they're being overwhelmed. That's not him. I mean, he gets to the rim, he will fight through the contact, and he will make the bucket, and he'll get fouled. Now, his foul shooting needs to improve. But it's very impressive what he's been doing physically, and I think his defense has been pretty good, solid as well. Now, you heard some issues about that coming out of Duke, but I mean, his effort has been there defensively, and I can see him being a good defender in this league for a long time. But to take the next step, he's got to hit that jumper more consistently.
Big questions entering the season. Coach Visdale talked about how he was going to allow his point guards to kind of play it out to see who was going to get the nod for the most amount of minutes. Obviously, Elfrid Payton probably has the best numbers among the three, but is there a standout right now, or has Fizdale discussed that point guard position?
Yeah, well, Elfrid Payton's been out for a while with the groin strain, but he had the starting position while he was healthy. But since then, Dennis Smith Jr. has really struggled. He had a death in the family that kept him away from the team, and it became Frank Ntilikina's job for a while, and that's where we are right now. Now, what Frank brings, he's the best perimeter defender on the team. It's really not close. But offensively, he really needs to step up. I mean, it's not just that he's not scoring or he's not distributing or doesn't have enough assists. He's not aggressive enough, and the Knicks have been hammering home, hey, if you're going to be our point guard, you have to be aggressive, you have to make plays, and we've seen some improvement in that area from Frank Ntilikina, and if that continues, I think he will hold the starting job. But when Elfrid Payton does come back from his injury, obviously I think he's going to get the nod. We'll see. I don't know how that's going to play out when Elfrid comes back, actually.
Thank you, Stefan Bondy, for joining us here on the warm-up. We appreciate it, and you're welcome back anytime.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right, so we had the latest for us with the Knicks. Let's check in with another team that plays in the New York area. The Brooklyn Nets. We've already talked about how they have no Kyrie Irving. He's out with that right shoulder impingement, which is also known as swimmer's shoulder, in case you guys were wondering what that was at home. They're 5-7 right now. What can they do to be successful in the absence of Kyrie?
I think for them is to get back to the principles of moving the basketball, defending. I love the way Joe Harris has been playing. And I think for them is incorporate their bigs a little bit more. I know those guys are not throw-it-to-them, post-up players, but try to get them to have some kind of inside presence, whether it's on lobs, whether it's on pick and rolls, getting them the basketball a little bit more. And I think for them it still comes down to defending, keeping the game close, and being able to win games at the end.
Well, Smitty, I think you said it. Last year, Brooklyn's identity was defense and ball movement and that blue-collar type of team and that blue-collar type of mentality where anybody could step up and be the leading scorer. And I think, obviously, with any addition, there's going to be kind of a growing pains of trying to figure things out with the addition of a scorer like Kyrie Irving. But they got to get back to winning those games at the end. Last year, it was almost for certain Brooklyn Nets were going to pull it out in some way when it was 1 or 2 points that separated two teams. And now this year, it just seems like they haven't been able to figure that out in the late fourth quarter.
Well, their opponent tonight is the Indiana Pacers, who are playing, obviously, without Victor Oladipo, their all-star. They've been managing to try to hold it together, right? They're 7-6, but Jeremy Lamb has been out for 6 games. And then you look at Malcolm Brogdon, missed their last game. What do they have to do to try to just stay afloat in the meantime?
I think the addition of bringing back in Miles Turner, who was out with injury, pairing him with Sabonis and figuring out exactly how you want to play those two together. The Pacers have a similar identity to what we were talking about with Brooklyn Nets. I mean, just that basketball mentality. They're going to work hard. They're not going to make very many mistakes. They're going to move the ball. On any given night, anybody can be the leading scorer. And so, you know, with Brogdon out, obviously they're going to struggle defensively and knocking down shots. But at the end of the day, they're a team because they're a team. And I think that they're going to be in a good place when Victor Oladipo does return.
I think Nick McMillan's done a great job, Candace and Stephanie. You said it best. It seemed like we've named the entire team has been out. Malcolm, Miles, so many people have missed. Oladipo, your best player, they haven't had him all season. I think Nate has just found a way to have these guys just play the right way. They don't make mistakes. They don't beat themselves. And I think a lot of times they've lost because they just don't have the firepower. But I love the way they were going without Oladipo. And I was saying, wow, when he gets a chance to partner up with Malcolm Brogdon, this is going to be an interesting backcourt because they can defend, they're unselfish, and Malcolm knows how to play. So I'm looking for them just to keep getting better, and hopefully they can get healthy.
Well, we're looking forward to it. All of us are. I do think Nate McMillan is a big part of the reason why they continue to find success. The game that's going to be on NBA TV tonight is Portland at Houston. Here's a look at Hassan Whiteside. His last game out, 21 points, 12 boards, 3 block shots. Can he do that consistently to help this Trailblazer team? continues. We're presented by Ford, and tonight on NBA TV, once you're dialed in like you are right now, you never have to leave. At 7 p.m., the Auto Trader pregame show starts. And, of course, at 8 p.m., the Houston Rockets will be hosting the Portland Trailblazers. And then at 10 p.m., you've got Game Time presented by Kia. So keep it locked right here on NBA TV. We got another question for Ask the Analyst, guys. Would you ever consider becoming an NBA head coach? Stevie?
I would. There's a few organizations I'd love to work for. Miami Heat is one.
Okay.
The Warriors, Hawks, because I get to stay home in Atlanta.
Smart. I wasn't going to ask you who.
The Knicks.
Because I didn't want to put you on the spot.
No, not the Knicks. Let me stop.
Okay.
No.
New York's good to live.
I just like New York. I got caught
Right.
up in liking the city.
Okay.
I'm
would
not a
you
West Coast
consider it?
person.
I really like my job.
I know that's right. Okay.
Jeez.
Good answer. All right, listen, I got something for you guys. This
Way
is
to
a
throw
fun
me under
little.
the bus.
This is a fun
I
nugget.
really like my job.
We all love our job. This is a fun little nugget I dug up, okay?
Okay.
What do these dozen players have in common? Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, Trae Young, Jaren Jackson Jr., Zion Williamson, Kobe White, RJ Barrett, Lonzo Ball, Kevin Porter, Marvin Bagley III, and Jackson Hayes. What do they all have in common? Relates to a game that's going to be playing 8:30. San Antonio Spurs are featured in that game. That's your hint.
They all wear gym shoes.
Oh, that's a good one.
No,
But that's not it. None of those players were born when the San Antonio Spurs started their current 22-year-long streak of having winning seasons.
Oh, that's a good one, Steph.
That's a good one.
They weren't even born yet.
You got too much time on your
That's a
hands,
good
though.
one.
I know. Well,
Too much time.
keep that under your hat. For Candace Parker and Steve Smith, I'm Stephanie Reddy. We appreciate you joining us here in the warm-up. See you next time.
What do 65 players have in common?